Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Gonna try to do, I don't know how long of a video this is gonna be because it's not like their catalog is super long, but do a video on the band Mutemath I mentioned the other day. So yeah, they have a pretty sizable catalog. So they came out of they formed or came out of the ashes, or per se they say they came out of the ashes of the band titled Earthsuit, which I know, at least to an extent, had an association with the Christian rock scene. But Paul Meany, who was the keyboard player and singer, and then I can't remember if the drummer Darren King had been with them at that point. I don't know if he was originally with them, but yeah, they had Greg Hill, the guitarist, and Roy, his name is Cardenas. What's his name? Roy Mitchell Cardenas. So, I can't remember which one. Besides Paul, they had another vocalist named Adam LeClave. No, actually, yeah, Roy Mitchell was part of the Earthsuit. Anyway, Earthsuit is a band that I think I did listen to their last record a little bit. They have two records, Kaleidoscope Superior and The Rise of Modern Simulation. But I don't know, the Kaleidoscope Superior has a pretty good rating. Rap rock and alternative rock, I don't know, they had a similar sort of start to like bands like Dredge and even Fair to Midland, is that their style, they were trying to find their style, and they experimented with a bunch of different styles in that like late 90s, early 2000s. But and the Reign of Kindo, which I'll just say right now, I'm going to plan to do a video about also with their history soon. But anyway, so they formed Mutemath basically after Earthsuit ended. It was like 2003, yeah, from New Orleans. So their first EP, Reset, really good EP. Some people that are fans of Mutemath actually consider this the best thing they ever did. I'm not saying that, I wouldn't go that far. I do really like this EP. The song Control, the opening song, is just very memorable, very dreamy, very, take control of the atmosphere. Such a beautiful surrender. It flows. It's very kind of almost thematic. It's got a great theme, and the keyboards are very prominent. The singer Paul Meany, I got this to sign. I saw them. I'll go into the live performance. In fact, I could do a video just on my seeing Mutemath live, because I saw them probably a grand total of like 5 or 6 times. I guess they did open. I don't know if they ever opened for Dredge, but the thing that they shared with Dredge, among other things, is that they brought Vedera, or Veda, this band that I like, with the female singer, who's now with a different band. I forget what band she joined, but Vedera was really good the first time when they opened for them, and Vedera had actually opened for Dredge, and I was talking to the Dredge fans about Mutemath, like, oh yeah, that band Vedera is opening, you should definitely not miss them. So, but there's other, this EP has Peculiar People. A lot of these songs were great, sort of staples live. Peculiar People, the okay is okay, but the Plan B they later put on. Some of these tracks were put on the deluxe version of their next album, but Reset, I believe, is an instrumental. So yeah, I really like this. The mood, the textures. It's got a very, well, it's just keyboard driven at times, but and then Darren King's drums, which are very tight. So that was in 2005, and I didn't see them. I don't know if they even came to Minnesota. They probably did. I was thinking they opened for like either Minus the Bear or Dredge, but I don't know if I ever found like a Dredge Mutemath tour. But so they headlined in 2006. The story is, okay, so I have 2 copies of their debut album. One is on an independent label, one's on a major label. I don't know if it's Warner Brothers. I think it might be Warner Brothers at the major label. And the major label version came out later in 2006. But it included like most of the Reset EP. And I think it actually includes like a DVD to the 4 members of the band. Roy Mitchell Cardenas, he was the bass player. But I'll talk more about his role later. Because if you look at the track list, here's the track list on there. They're not quite the same. the highlights for me on this debut album, I mean, it's a great debut album. One of my favorite albums from 2006. Typical, after we left our homes. Notice is got a really catchy chorus. Let's see here. Stare at the Sun. I always think of that song with Sting and almost Sting and the Police, because that's the thing is the singer Malmini's voice, especially on this album, on the Reset EP, and then the record that followed it especially. I think he definitely had a Sting kind of vocal, the Police Sting, and even some of Sting's solo work. Break the Same was another favorite, and You Are Mine. That's a very kind of warm, soothing, ballady piece. And I remember this one came out like in February or March of 2006. This was later released on the major label. I forget the reason why, but it was like they couldn't agree that, like, when they were trying to shop this record to get it released, they were trying to shop it to other labels. The labels weren't satisfied with it or something like that, with what Mutemath wanted to do. I don't know if they wanted to cut certain songs, or I can't remember what the deal was, but eventually they came to the agreement, and then they said, well, if you're going to release it, we're going to also include some of our other songs. Maybe that's what it was, and they said, we're going to include, because the Reset EP, I don't know if it went out of print, it just became less available, and they wanted their fans to be able to hear a lot of those songs, so, it's got control on it. So, yeah, I mean, I show the book and stuff, and I got the guys to sign it, because I saw them just when they toured for this album at least twice, maybe I think 3 times actually, come to think about it, because I saw them at the Ascot Room at the Fine Line at least once, where Under the Influence of Giants, another great opening band, short-lived sadly, opened for them, and that was like May of 2006, and then I saw them again, I think later that year, like right around the time this version came out, at the Barfly, which I later saw Under the Influence of Giants also at the Barfly as a headliner. But so let's see here. So that was 2006. They did a lot of touring, etc. Their next record didn't come out until 2009. Now they actually released an EP that I have, and I can't remember if this came out before or after it on vinyl. I found this years later. The song Spotlight is on the Spotlight EP. The album they released eventually in 2009 was called Armistice. This is a very noteworthy album that I remember reading at least 1 or 2 interviews with Paul Meany and maybe even Greg Hill, the guitarist. I can't remember how this was a battle. I mean, the name Armistice kind of speaks to that. It was definitely a very difficult record for them to make. It took a long time. I mean, they probably recorded and re-recorded a lot of these songs. However, and I've always kind of put this one aside to an extent, even though at the time I definitely liked it. I didn't like it as much as the debut, but I liked it, and now I'm kind of flipped. I've come to the point where I actually think I like this record more than the debut album, Armistice. But the thing is, the song Spotlight ended up on the soundtrack for maybe the first or second Twilight movie. And the lyrics kind of point to that a little bit, but here's the EP, and again, the sequence of when this came out, for some reason I think it actually came out after the album came out. Both came out in 2009, I think. But, so here it is. It's got 4 tracks on it. I think Sunlux remix of, the song was Sunlux. I think Sunlux is the artist. I think it's Early Light is the name of the song that's remixed, which I actually really like, even though it's just a remix. But, Spotlight's a good song. Clockwork is okay. If I'm not mistaken, though, Clockwork references another song on... I think it does. It references a song from Armistice. But, so, Armistice itself, the record... I mean, the thing is, I'll always think of the title track. There was a version of that with these big New Orleans jazz horns. Trombone especially, and it was just, the groove was amazing. Now the title track is good and it has some of that, but the version that they put up on like MySpace, I think it was, or something like that, I was blown away by it. Then when this album came out, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't on there. Now there may be versions of it that, and this thing's been in here so long, may have gotten like something on it. Oh yeah, that's probably what happened. But the yeah, well, this is what I'm finding when you have CDs that are they get. I need to buy another copy of this. My copy of that booklet is not in the best of shape. I'm not sure how many times I even opened this, but okay. So the catchiest track I've always felt, and always one of my favorites on this record, is called "Goodbye." It has a very strong hook. Even though the tone of this album is very dark and kind of cynical, depressing at points, it's still melodic enough that it works. But the percussion on this record is really cool, really good. They did a lot of these songs live, and they were pins and needles. Electrify is one of my favorite tracks for sure. Burden. Let's see, the first 3 or 4 songs too, besides Spotlight. Let's see, The Nerve. Clipping is another one. So, I mean, I think this record is a jump from the debut in that it's not as synth driven. It's still synth. There's still enough of it, but it's more percussive. And Darren King is almost the star on this at times, the drummer from Mutemath. So basically, I was saying, this rap band is really good. I mean, the Muse comparisons or the Dredge comparisons or, the comparisons to the Police, yeah, it's all there to an extent. But they really, I mean, seeing them live, I was blown away by them. So, like I said, I owed to make a separate video about all the concerts I've seen because they're one of the best live bands I've ever seen. If I did top 5 or top 10 for sure, top 5 live bands, Mutemath is certainly, they never did one boring show. They did these drum jams and they Paul Meany did crowd surfing on mats and stuff like that, and the songs always had a different kind of feel and energy to them live. But so I don't know. After that, Greg Hill, the guitarist, decided, in the major label, they did tours, of course, a lot of touring for this. They went overseas, went to Japan, but he decided to jump ship, and so they were down to as a 3-piece. They never got another guitarist really to join for their next record, so they had Roy Cardenas, Mitchell Cardenas. He did most of the guitar work on the next record, Odd Soul, which at the time this record came out was definitely a difference. I mean, the people that loved the first 2 albums were kind of not as thrilled with this. And I remember I thought, this is pretty different. I'm wondering how they're going to do with this other guitarist. And the sound was different. And I think it was a case of where there's a few songs I liked, but I I never got, I never fell in love with it when it first came out. I still liked it. And then again, I saw them on that tour, and the tour was amazing. When did it come out? I can't remember what point of the year. It came out late in the year, so in 2011. It wasn't 3 years, it was 2 years. I was thinking this album came out in 2012, but 2011. But then over a period of time of late in 2011, then 2012, 2013, I'm listening to some Mutemath, if I want to put on Mutemath, or I'm going to see Mutemath live. This album started to win me over. I saw some comments about it, how it's just, their first 2 records are good, but they just don't have something that this record has. And I've come to conclude, every time I listen to it, which hasn't been that often over the last few years, but enough, that I agree. And I'll say that right now, this has become my favorite Mutemath record. It's got this really cool, funky groove to it. The guitar parts, the drum parts, the production, it sounds like it was made in the 70s, very cool, almost funk, R&B at points, 70s record. The riffs, I don't know how they came up with them. Someone was comparing it to garage rock. I can say the production style is more stripped down, but it works all for the better. There's a couple songs. Now, at the same time, there's a few tracks and moments, the keyboards really stand out, and they're some of the best riffs and parts that the band ever came up with. I didn't get this vinyl record until a few years later, and that's why I didn't because I would have probably bought it in 2011 or 2012. That was the beginning of the point was buying records on vinyl instead of CD. But I did buy the CD anyway. I don't remember if I bought it at the show or not, but I guess my favorites on this, I mean, the title track is great, Prytanium, Blood Pressure, those are the Odd Soul, the title track, and Blood Pressure were the 2 singles, but I think it's Cavalries, that part is just funk at its best for a band from New Orleans. I think it's Quarantine. I listened to this a couple days ago, Quarantine was the other one that I was like, or maybe it wasn't Quarantine. It's a song that has a longer title. Maybe Tell Your Heart Heads Up. I think that might be it. It like starts out slow, but then the ending of that song is just, it's just amazing. It's one of the best songs they've ever done. Let's see here. What did I put down? Because I remember Tell Your Heart Heads Up. I think that's it. Well, or maybe no, one more. And then I was listening to some of the bonus tracks, which some of them I've heard, some of them I have not heard. But I did discover in the vinyl now that it came with a CD, which I'm not sure if this is just the CD or the CD with all the, because there's some bonus tracks. But I heard it every song other than Amendment and Sunray on here. I mean, it just, there's a huge, like, just tremendous energy and vibe. The drum work, it sounds like jazz at times. It's like a funk, jazz, R&B, catchy pop, synth album at points. And it totally works. I don't know where, I can't remember who produced it, but whoever it was a genius. But yeah, Odd Soul's amazing. And, you know, I think this record will stand the test of time. I think years from now I'll be listening to it always. If I'm going to one Mutemath record now, I always think about this. I love a lot of the other records, but... So, alright, let's go on. And the next record they put out, and they'd already kind of abandoned got some bands to jump ship after that, unfortunately, but... So after, with the use of some of the synthesizers, they decided to do more of that with their next record, Vitals. And this is kind of like the Dredge album, Chuckles and Mr. Squeezy. I like it, but I can understand why people don't like it so much, because it's almost pure synth pop at points. But it's still, some of the songs are pretty well written. Monument was the first single that they released, and I like that. Joyrides, let's see here. Bulletproof is another one. Used to, I mean, it's not a bad record, but at the same time, I initially gave it 4 stars. Stratosphere is another one I like, but I wouldn't give it 4 stars now. I put my rating down. I think it's somewhere in the 3 to 3.5. It's still good, but it does sound... It's almost when Ben Sinister was trying the synth pop. I think Ben Sinister might have pulled it off slightly better than Mutemath, but... I mean, there's always been keyboards and synthesizers in Mutemath's records, but this album, Vitals, from 2015... you know, I think it might have been a one-off. I don't know. I don't know. I know that, again, it was very polarizing. The hardcore Mutemath fans still enjoyed it, but I know people that this is the only album they don't even like at all from the band. They thought, what are they doing? What happened to their sound here? And it doesn't bother me that much, but at the same time, I can't rate it higher than any other records, which speaks more to their quality of the records than actually how good of a, or not as good of a record it is. It's still a decent record. It's just, it sounds different. It's very synth poppy. So the next year they released an album called Changes, which I don't have. But Changes really is a remix album of a lot of songs from Vitals. The title track, though, is a new song, and I really like that. It's synthy, but also very catchy and very energetic, which is kind of ambiguous to describe, but I haven't listened to it that many times. I probably listened to the song Changes maybe 5 times, but I'm just listening to it again. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good song. I mean, I don't know. A lot of the other songs are just remixes of a lot of the songs from here. I don't think any of the other songs on here, and maybe almost the whole record actually, is remixed. But there's multiple remixes of some of these songs. Monument, you know. If you like remixes are very hit and miss for me, and generally they're something I just listen to once or twice, and I don't typically return to unless I'm in the mood to like chill. So then in 2017, you know, there's still a 3-piece, I believe, but I'm not even sure they toured for Changes. They did tour for Vitals, but I don't remember if I saw them on that tour. I kind of think I did. I think the last... Well, yeah, alright, maybe I did. I know I did not see them for this tour, though. Their last record, their, at this point, final proper full-length record, Play Dead, came out in 2017, and... Well, I haven't revisited it that much since 2017, but I will not... I cannot lie or cannot discount the history of... In 2017, this was my album of the year. However, I kind of felt like, well, it is album of the year, but for albums of the year comparison, it's not at the top of my favorite records. Of the decade of the 2010s, I wouldn't put it in the top 5 probably. However, from that, now listening to it again the other day, I know why it was my album of the year, because it's a great record, and I don't think I like this. Here's I can show the vinyl again. It's like a orange, kind of almost marmalade. It was a swan song record at this point. I mean, I don't know if they ever come back, because Darren King, the drummer, and I think Roy Cardenas Hill, both of them kind of decided they couldn't do the band anymore. And they had someone who was a touring musician, I think, but Paul Meany is basically the band. You can see that. And they're kind of on like a hiatus now. I don't know. I think he's worked with 21 Pilots, that band that's gotten really popular. Like not even hipster band. But this record, though, again, I would say, I mean, Hit Parade, the first track, Pixie Oaks. Pixie Oaks is really catchy. I've always loved the last three tracks, War, Achilles Heel, and Marching to the End. They're very sad in a lot of ways, very melancholy. It's very kind of calling out, like, is this the end of everything or is it not? On all of them. Nuisance, Break the Fever is also catchy. The drum work is great on this record, among other things. It also, I think, they found a great marriage between what they did on these previous two records. I think that in some ways, with Play Dead, they got the blend of the sort of funky, rhythmic, percussive elements of Odd Soul with a lot of the synthy pop elements, because it's poppy enough on Vitals. It makes me sad because they have such a good catalog, and this being their last proper record, they went out on a really high note, because this album is really good, and I would probably put it second, right behind Odd Soul. And I kind of put Armistice in there too. It's tough to rank them. The self-titled maybe fourth, but self-titled is sometimes the record I go to. That's what kind of speaks to the quality of Mutemath's catalog. So then that was in 2017. Again, I don't believe I got to see them on this tour, sadly, because I think they basically released the record, and they did go on a tour, but it was in limitation. I don't think Darren King even was with them, which, seeing them without Darren King is weird. Because to me, if they do continue on without him, I know he's going to be releasing some solo music. He was supposed to put a song out last month. I never seen something about it, but I never heard it. He posted a video on YouTube. But without Darren King, they're going to reinvent the sound and stuff like that, reinvent their style. Just go on with a different drummer. If it's Paul Meany's band, or don't call it Mutemath. But the core of Mutemath has frequently been Paul Meany and Darren King, but with those other two guys. Especially Roy, but we'll see what happens if this is it. But then I could just mention in 2018 they released, it was like toward the end of 2018, it was a limited pressing vinyl and just online, the Voices in the Sleep EP, which I know I got online, I did not buy, and people are trying to sell this thing on Discogs between 141 and like $350, the vinyl. The thing that sucks about this is that on Spotify, you only have the 4 of the 8 tracks that are on it. But I'll say that 2 of the best songs that aren't on what's on Spotify, the digital version, are not on it. I had to go onto YouTube. In fact, Sooner or Later I liked a lot. Yeah, I remember Sooner or Later. But I went on and I went to YouTube, and let's see it here. Voice in the Silence. Yeah, because there's 8 tracks on it on the vinyl version of it. And I remember listening to some of them. Some of them are okay. Work of Art, yeah. Sooner or Later, Work of Art would be the 2 that I would look to besides the title track. I mean, I'd say it's better than Vitals, even though it's not amazing. It was 8 songs that were recorded, I guess, between the time of the self-titled and Armistice, or around the time they wrote them, maybe around the time of the self-titled. It does resemble more of the songs from that period, even the Reset EP. So in the whole the canon of their catalog, where did it go? It goes above Vitals to me, but not above anything else. But it's still a pretty good EP. I would like to get it if I could, but I'm not going to shell out $140 or $350. So. Anyway, that's my story on this kind of the great band from New Orleans, Louisiana, Mutemath. If I ever get into Earthsuit, maybe I'll talk about them. I don't know. Again, it's the Christian element. They actually got a little association with Christian rock as well, but it's really more subtle, like Jars of Clay, or even close, not even close to that. Rain Akindo had a similar experience in King's X, but I don't think they really are a Christian band. But they had appearances on TV. I mean, I love Mutemath. Some of the best concerts I've ever seen. People out there, have you ever listened to Mutemath? What do you think? If you what's your favorite album? A lot of people say the first record. They were getting pretty big there. They never got as big as Muse, but they were starting to play some arenas, especially like in Europe, I think, or in Asia and other parts. But they had a good run. If they never come back, it's sad, but I can't deny. I had my fill of Mutemath at least. But if they do come back someday, it'd be great, and we have, at least we have all these albums. They have a great catalog. One of the more consistent bands of the last 15 to 20 years are Mutemath. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.